At the New Jersey SBDC Network, our mission is simple: to help businesses grow and succeed. Our consulting, training, and information services make it easier for businesses to reach their potential. Whether you're currently in operation or just starting out, we have the right tools, resources, and expertise to help you succeed. Visit us online to get started on your path to success today.
A pleasant good afternoon to everyone. My name is Takoa Bell. I am an event coordinator for the NJSBDC at Rutgers-Newark. And on behalf of Dr. Tendai Enduro, the regional director, I would like to welcome you all to our Understanding Personal Credit and Scores webinar. For those of you here that are unfamiliar with the SBDC, it stands for Small Business Development Centers. And here at the New Jersey Small Business Development Centers at Rutgers-Newark, we serve as the premier provider of technical business training and assistance services to establish small businesses, startups, and as well as to entrepreneurs. We are one of 12 centers in the NJSBDC network, and we service those within Essex County. Our center is hosted by the Rutgers Business School and funded through a public partnership agreement between the Small Business Administration, Rutgers University, and the New Jersey Business Action Center. Our mission here is to help entrepreneurs as well as business owners start and grow sustainable, successful businesses through the delivery of one-on-one business consulting, training, and technical assistance programs. Now, all of these services are provided to you at no cost and are paid for by your tax dollars. If you or your business is located within Essex County, our website is www.rnsbdc.com. And on the top right-hand corner of our website, you can request counseling by clicking on a button, and clicking on that button will lead you to fill out some information about your business, including the help you are seeking. And within 24 to 48 business hours, a consultant will reach out to you for an assessment. And for those of you here that are not in Essex County, our headquarters website is www.njsbdc.com. And on that website, you can type in your county and it will refer you to your local SBDC office. For the benefit of everyone attending today's webinar, your audio has been muted and we will be taking questions via the Q&A feature here on Zoom. We do have the chat feature on, but the Q&A feature will help us to remain organized and have all the questions and answers in one designated area. So please feel free to post your questions and we will do our best to respond during or at the end of today's webinar. A copy of the presentation slides along with a video recording of this webinar will be emailed to you within 48 to 72 business hours so that you can refer to all of this information long after the webinar has ended. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you all our presenter for today's webinar, Carmen Morris. Carmen is the CEO and founder of Niviari and Associates, LLC, and Business Mastery Consulting Service. Carmen is an SBDC consultant here at the NJSBDC at Rutgers-Newark in the areas of international trade, strategic planning, and credit counseling finance. And now, without further ado, I will turn today's webinar over to Carmen.
Thanks, Dakota. I apologize for everyone for starting a little late, but we're going to be covering a lot of information here today. So don't feel kind of pressure or stress, but to take notes. As she said before, you're going to receive a copy of this webinar. I'm also going to provide you with an email that you can also ask questions. And like Dakota said, you can also ask for counseling after the webinar. If any of the information that you're about to receive today, it's information that you'd like to know further about and you'd like to, and it applies to your particular situation, all you got to do is just contact us and request counseling and we can assist you. Let me just make a disclaimer here. I am not an attorney. I'm not a counsel. I am not, the information that I'm going to cover today is based on the information that I've gathered throughout the years, over 25 plus years in the credit area. and things that have worked for myself and have worked for clients. So you might, when it pertains to credit, things may be different and every situation is unique. So as we move along through this presentation, I'd like you to ask the questions. And if I'm going through fast, then just raise your hand and just stop me there, and I can go ahead and take care of the question that you have at that moment. Now let's just get started. In the overview, we're going to be covering up, we're going to talk about the situation that we're living with the pandemic in the last year and a half, the COVID, and how can it impact your credit and also your finances. What exactly is a FICO score? Because we hear the term FICO score. So we're going to cover every detail. What is it? How does it get broken down? Different variables of credit. How does it affect you? How can you utilize a certain percentage of credit? And also, what does the law say concerning your credit? And how can you use the law to protect yourself against many unscrupulous creditors or any other collection agencies that are out there that do some kind of unfair practices act. Also communicating with, we'll talk about how you can communicate with the credit bureaus, especially dealing with collection agencies. This is a problem that many of us face and many of us have when it pertains to credit. We will talk about third-party data miners and agencies and how they use your information to get it to the credit bureaus, the process of freezing their report to protect yourself, and how to deal with the credit bureaus. When I say deal, how to work with them and how to have them abide by what the law says. So let's just get started in understanding that through the problems that we have been facing the last year and a half, a lot of business models have changed, and a lot of things in the ways in which the credit industry had operated in the past it has been a little lenient. So much so that through the CARES Act, now the bureaus are offering free credit reports on a weekly basis all the way to April of 2022. I believe it's April 20th of 2022. You can go ahead and get your free credit reports from all three major credit bureaus on a weekly basis so that you can see if anything is there that you have to work on. And the reason this is being done is because many of us have been affected. Many jobs have been lost and people have lost their income. So they're not able to pay their bills as they used to. So it affects their credit. But just stay calm, because you don't have to stress about this. If you are a person that lost income in the last year and a half and due to the situation that we're living today, don't worry. Focus on there's no need for you to focus on your credit score right now. Always remember and always know that your credit scores are something that you can always increase and always fix or take care of. If you are a person, especially that always use your credit responsibly, and all of a sudden you see you in a situation where you're not able to pay your bills on time, it's okay. Focus on keeping all the bare necessities. There is help out here for you to get back on track. Concentrate on your rent, electricity, on clothing and medical bills. Always, and also ask if you are experiencing some situation right now in which there are some bills that you cannot really pay or some creditors, call them, communicate with them. Many of them are working with you. And just remember that many of these organizations are also taking advantage of the resources that are being put out there through the CARES Act. So they are, especially banks, they are under the obligation to offer you the assistance that you need. If you have a mortgage that you cannot pay right now because you lost your job or your income has been reduced, you can go under what is called a forbearance. A forbearance doesn't mean that you don't have to pay the bank back. All it means is that you don't have to pay the mortgage right now. I have clients that have been in a forbearance for over 15 months already. And what they do is that money accumulates there, but at the end, when the forbearance is over, that money is due back to the bank, they offer you assistance of either modification of the loan, or they could give you a deferment, which means it goes in the back of the loan and you don't have to pay the entire amount. And at least you can stay up to date with your mortgage payments. But there is help out there. So as for the resources, many townships have different resources in which they work with people. If you cannot pay your utility bills, don't let things affect your credit. Don't let anything go into collections, because most of all these organizations are working with people. And I'm going to be answering all those questions at the end. So what is credit? Let's go right into it. What is credit? These are statistical numbers that indicate and evaluate your credit worthiness based on the history that is provided by the credit bureaus. Now, this information, when this information is given, there are numbers that are measured through this information. So what happens is it ranges from 300 to 850. And we're going to talk about exactly how you can go ahead and monitor your credit and understand what you need to do, specifically what you need to do so that you can get those 550 points that you as a consumer are responsible for. Because the lowest credit score is 300 and the highest is 850, there is 550 points, and throughout this presentation, I'm going to break those points and tell you exactly what can be done in order for you to go ahead and apply it to your credit so you can increase your credit score. Not all credit providers use what is called the system of the FICO score, which is the most common score that is used. So much so that the FICO score, any credit score now is called, well, what is your FICO score? But this is just one form of score, one type of score that is out there. And this was introduced by the Fair Isaac Corporation more than 25 years ago. This FICO score term is used interchangeably with a lot of things. And it's used mainly, it is the main one that is used in the industry. But not every credit score that you purchase online is a FICO score. And it ranges with different numbers. So as I go through the different scores, I cover the FICO score first because it's the one that is most widely used by creditors. But now there's all the different scores that are used to measure credit in a different way, still from the 300 to the 850, but giving more detail in terms of the numbers. But this one is the one that is mostly used by lenders. Banks are now offering FICO scores. If you notice, if you have a checking account or a savings account with any bank, they're now using and offering FICO scores, free FICO scores to their clients. And the reason they're doing that is because now banks are monitoring you through what is called also the Ultra FICO score. The Ultra FICO score is a formula that was created for people that have been in financial crisis, or you have been in any situation in which you've gone through a bankruptcy and you need to increase your credit. These scores are determined by your bank account and your savings account. So you have to be very careful when you're using your bank account, either your savings or your checking, because anytime you bounce a check, guess what? That's negative information that is going into your Ultra FICO scores, which is a score that you may use if you want to purchase a car, if you want to get a credit card. for anything, this is also a very legit score that it's being widely used in the industry right now. So whenever, if you want to increase your credit and you have gone through any financial crisis or bankruptcy or repo, and you just want your credit to, you just need a few more points on your credit, this is a way that the banks are doing it. They're offering you the free FICO, but this is a good way for you to get started and for you to monitor the credit and start rebuilding your credit. The best way that I tell my clients is to start paying your bills online, do it automatically from a checking account, and set it up so if it's due on the 5th, you pay on the 1st. And you do that consistently for 5 or 6 months, and you're going to see your credit increase, because this is how it gets monitored. So the Ultra FICO is just one more way, and you see how it's broken down. The FICO score is broken down from 3 to 579. So this is poor. This one is a poor, then it goes fair, and then good, very good, and excellent. However, if you're going to see the other types of scores that go from one, I'm sorry, my score is, my screen is just, okay. So if you see that the score goes from 300 to 850. And remember, I said that you are responsible for the 550 points that are between here and here, between the 300 and the 850. The Ultra FICO score is more lenient. It goes from very poor to poor, and it has a different scale. However, the FICO score is a little more rigid when it comes to the numbers that are assigned. But all these numbers that are assigned work in the same way, and I'm going to show you exactly how it works. Those 550 points that you are responsible for are the path for you to rebuild your credit, because these 550 points are only affected through negative information or negative trade on your credit report. This is how, I just need to get this out. I am sorry. This is how the breakdown goes. And I hope that everyone can see my screen. Takora, can everyone see can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it, Carmen.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how the points are broken down. If you have any late payment history, you can be losing up to 192.5 points on your credit report. The reason I say up to is because it could be a little less, but that's the most that you can be deducted, that it can be deducted from your credit. If you see that if you have one late payment, the next month you're going to see like, oh my God, it's like 75 points or it's 30 points, but it affects these 192 points that you can get for having good payment history. The good news is that when it comes to payment history, you can always also correct that. That can be corrected. It doesn't have to stay that you're losing all these points because you missed one payment. You can always work it out with the creditor, which is one thing that we're going to also discuss. The credit utilization, how much credit do you use from the credit that is available to you? That's 165 points. That is also a whole lot of points. And I'm going to break down what do I recommend and how can you take advantage of grabbing those 165 points and add it to your credit. Now, the credit age, how long have you had this credit or this loan or this credit card or this mortgage? It ranges from 4 to 7 years and is 82.5 points. Inquiries, 55 points, and credit mix, which means types of credit. Is it a loan? Is it a car loan? Is it a mortgage? What is it that, what type of credit is it that you now have? So all these numbers add up to those 550 points I discussed before. If you remember, if you add this point, that is the 555 points. So when you do an analysis of your credit, you look and see where is it that you're missing the most. Is it the points that pertain to payment history? Is it credit utilization? Is it credit age? So you see each one, and then you know which one to attack first if you need your credit to increase, and you need to go ahead and make sure that you have all the points that are allowed and available to you. Now, with the late payments, if it's one late payment, right away, I'm sorry, it is pouring rain here. Give me 1 minute. I have to close this door. I am back. I'm so sorry. Whew. So if it's a late payment, up to 110 points. Collections. Now, collections is one of the areas where we see most frequently on our credit. It could be just a medical bill or anything that could be like $5 you to pay at your doctor's, anything. Collections are another 110 points. Foreclosures, 160. Now look at the bankruptcy, 240 points. What people don't know is the bankruptcies don't have to be on your credit. They are, but they can be taken off your credit if you do the right steps. I see this over and over again. I'm not going to discuss too much about bankruptcy, but all I need to let you know is that if you have a bankruptcy on your credit report, there is a way you can get rid of it. It takes time, it takes work, but it's worth it. Because if you look at it, it's 240 points. That is a lot. If you have a 500 credit score and you get those 240 points by taking that bankruptcy of your credit report, you're in the 700 club. You're talking about 740. That would be your credit score. So you need to understand that if you have a bankruptcy, there is a way that you can. It's not always guaranteed. Let me just say this, because for some people, on the first try, it's done. But on the second or third, sometimes it takes them 2 or 3 times. But I would say that most of my clients get their bankruptcies taken off their credit, I would say at least 85% of the time. Now, also, let me just talk about debt settlement. Debt settlements are 125 points. Many of people think that because they settled the debt with the collection or with the creditor, that it's not damaging to them or to their credit. Well, it is. If you're not paying and settling the debt for them to delete it and agree to this upfront in writing, then you might as well leave it alone, because guess what? It's going to do the same damage to your credit if it stays on your credit. Even if it says paid, it's still a negative trade and it still affects you, those 125 points. So if you are settling a debt with any creditor or any collection agency, first have the discussion of pay to delete after you have settled the percentage that you're going to pay on this debt. So you have to be very careful, because if you pay the debt, that does not mean that it's going to go off your credit. Now, hard inquiries also, it's 55 points. Anytime, it's up to 55 points. Anytime someone goes ahead and checks your credit, anytime that person, anytime you give someone your social security number, or you give them permission to check your credit, you can lose up to 55 points on your credit. So if you are shopping for a car, or if you are going for, if you're going for a mortgage, first do your research on which mortgage company you're going to use, and then go directly to them after you have prepared yourself with your credit, because you will know there's a way you can prepare yourself with your credit before you make any purchase, and you will know what interest to negotiate based on your credit score. Now, so what makes up the credit scores? 35% payment history, 30% the amount you owe, 15% the length of the credit history. How long have you have credit with that particular creditor? And then 10% is new credit, and another 10% is type of credits that you are using, mortgages, car loans, and so on. Now, these are broken into different variables. Excuse me. High impact variables, as I said before, remember, this is the highest one, which is the payment history. That is extremely, extremely important. This is why even the ultra FICO scores uses the payment, uses your bank account, your savings or your checking to monitor and try to rebuild your credit. If you are someone that always you see yourself paying late fees on your credit cards or any late payment, this affects you tremendously. This is the highest way that, this is the worst way that your credit can be affected, because remember, it's about 192 points, and that's a lot. That is a lot, and right away, if that one payment can go ahead and be up to 110 points, just one payment. So you have to be very careful. Then the usage of credit, the credit utilization is also key. Many recommend that if you do up to 30% utilization, you're in a safe place. I recommend to do it at 10%. 10% is what I keep on my credit card at the end of the month, on my statement day. One thing you need to become familiar is with your statement date on anything. On your statement day, you have to know exactly what date that is, so you make sure that these percentages are covered. So if you are, for instance, I use my credit card for everything. And before 3 to 4 days before my statement day, I make sure it's at 10%. So, and the reason I do that is because everything is insured with your credit card. So any purchase that you do, and if you need a way to keep record, it is an excellent way for you to become very disciplined with that, in which even if you have to do the groceries or anything, you do it, and at the end of the month, then you make that one payment and everything is clear, but you keep record of everything. So if you are using the 30% ratio, and you have, let's say, for instance, you have $1,000 available to you of credit, you should not use more than $300 from that particular credit card. The minute it goes $301 or $302, guess what? It immediately affects your credit. Immediately, you're going to see at least 50 points and up on your credit. So I recommend that you keep that utilization to just the bare 10%. One thing is that once you do that and creditors start looking at you, the minute they see that and they see that you're using things responsibly, so then they would consider you more. So also derogatory information is a high impact variable. Bankruptcies, collections, and liens. Remember, all of these things on your credit report can be taken care of. There are laws that are on your side that are violated many times, and these things are on your credit report. So if you really become familiar with what you need to do, you can go ahead and take care of that situation. The median impact variable is the age of credit. How long? Have you have that information? Have you had that credit maybe a year, 6 months? That on an average is between 4 to 7 years is like a very solid one, and you will get all the points. So how long that credit has been available to you, and it's thundering here really hard. I don't know if anybody's hearing that. Then the low impact, then there's the low impact variable. These are the total accounts that you have opened. That's a low impact variable. The amount of credit that is available to you. Let's say if you, the more credit, the better. But sometimes when you have a lot of credit available to you, if you're making a big purchase like a house, that can also affect you. But the lack of credit trades, not having enough credit, it's a low also impact variable. And then the credit inquiries, as I discussed before, those are 55 points. Anytime somebody goes and check on your credit, these are points on your credit. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 5, it depends on the credit bureau, because they never tell you exactly the amount of points, but it's always up to a specific amount, and it can be up to 55, as we discussed before. So how do we fall into the credit pit? This is a place that many of us have been before until we learn our lesson. I know I learned my lesson in the late 90s. And using credit irresponsibly is one of the things that we do. We ignore the creditors when they call. You should not be afraid to speak to any creditor. You should always confront the creditor, say the situation. I don't speak to collection agencies. If they call me, those are people I don't talk to. But that's me. That's how I handle my credit. If you feel that you need to talk to the collection agency, especially if it pertains to a student loan, because remember, student loans never go away. They stay there, so you need to work those things out. But that's a different webinar that we would probably do in the future about credit and student loans, and how to fix that situation that many of us go through with our student loans. So ignoring the creditors, going on a shopping spree, this is not money in your bank. I call it money in my bank because the money's there, but I'm using the credit card. So I use credit. I try to maintain a discipline in which I use credit to my benefit. I use credit to my convenience. But it's a place that you make sure you have to get yourself disciplined in knowing which days anything has to be paid. I choose 5 days prior to my statement day. That's the day it gets paid. If it cannot get paid that day, I will not spend that money on that credit card. So, but that's how I discipline myself, and you can do it whichever way or system works for you. We never check our credit. Especially now, you can get a credit report every week. You can go ahead and check and see if anything is in there. Trust me, chances are 99.9% that you will have something on your credit that doesn't belong there, because this is how the credit bureau works. And it's not that they do it intentionally, it's just the information, they're furnishing the information that is given to them, and they're making it available to those who pay for it, which are the creditors who are trying to give you credit. So they want to know if your credit worthiness is there or if they should lend the money to you. We never tend to dispute with the credit bureaus. There's a way that you can dispute with the credit bureaus, and the way that you dispute with separate with the creditors. But there's laws to protect you and defend you against the credit bureaus. So you also need to become familiar with this. We tend to go co-sign for someone. That's one mistake that many of us have done. I say that if anybody who asks me to co-sign, most of the time these are family members. But anybody who asks that, if you try the bank and the bank cannot give it to you, then neither can I, because the bank has already done their job. So that to me is a red flag that I shouldn't co-sign for anyone. So we also allow medical collections to stay on our credit report. this does a lot of damage into our credit. Why does it do? Because this has to do with payment history. Even if it's $5, sometimes we go to the doctor and the doctor doesn't, we forget to pay the copay, $20, $30 or whatever, or the insurance doesn't pay the full percentage and there's a $30 bill and it lingers on our credit. And that is damaging because it has to do with payment history, which is a very high variable, and those payment history that affects us. So collection, and there's a way that you can deal with this little medical collections that are on your credit. As a matter of fact, these are the pretty simple ones that you can get rid of. And I'm going to talk about what to do later on in this presentation. Not knowing your rights when it comes to credit. I'm going to ask Takoa, are there any questions right now?
Yes, we do have a few.
Okay, let's start here and cover a few questions.
Okay, so we have one from Patricia. Patricia's asking, do debit cards fall into paying with checking account, or is that different?
Yeah, because if it's coming out of your checking account, yes, that is your checking account, your debit card.
Okay, Patricia is also asking, in the debt settlement conversation, what should I ask for? Should I ask if debt will be removed from my credit report after I pay the agreed amount? Is that what I'm asking them?
No, you're asking them. The first thing you negotiate is the amount. That's the first thing you negotiate. Once you get the amount settled, if it's for, let's say it's $1,000, you want to do 10%, they're going to say, oh, here, it's okay. So here's 10%, you pay us $100 and then we're fine. Okay, now I need you to give me a pay to delete. It's called pay to delete later. You do, unless you get that in writing, you don't pay them a penny, because once you pay them, you will not get it. And the pay to delete letter means that you pay them and they will delete it from your credit report. If you have a letter for them in writing, then you can, and you still see it on your credit, then that means you can go back to the credit bureau and dispute it directly, and the credit bureau will take care of it.
And that was our last question, Carmen.
Okay, so I'm going to move forward. Okay, so where do we begin? As I said before, you go to Free Credit Report or onyourcreditreport.com and get your credit report. Update, the first thing that you start with is updating your information. And for those of you on the webinar today, I will probably offer you the, I have a package letter and just a few steps that I offer many of my clients to begin with. So for those of you that are on the webinar today, you can send me an email, and if you request it, then I will probably send you those that package at a very minimal cost. So you update your personal information, your current address. Let me just tell you why. The first thing that you do is that you send that letter to the credit bureaus, the 3 credit bureaus, updating your name, employer, and address. Only one address. I've seen people sometimes have 5, 6 different addresses. Sometimes all of them are theirs, and sometimes it doesn't belong to them. You don't need any past addresses. The credit bureaus are not to have a history of your addresses. They should only have one current address, because it violates that the information that they have on you have to be accurate. You ask them, if any credit bureau gives you any hard time deleting an old address, you don't need to say that it's yours. On the letters that I send, I say that is not my address. If you send me a letter to that address, I would not receive anything. So the credit bureaus have to abide with a current address where they can communicate with you, and the information has to be accurate. As I'm going to discuss on the FRCA, what the law says concerning that. So your current employer also, the current employer, if you're collecting unemployment right now and you don't have a current employer and you have one employer on your credit, I suggest that you keep that into you either change it or you're employed by someone else. Because the reason is because if a creditor goes in, they like to see that you at least have one employer listed on your credit. But it should be your current employer. It should not be any old employer or anything. That information has to be, the information on your credit report has to be accurate and current. And that's just what you're trying to do. If you have any name change and your name also has to be corrected. And that information, the reason you do that first is because once you start disputing any information that does not agree, let's say you have a collection agency on your credit report and you are 123 William Street in let's say in Woodbridge, and now you're somewhere 345 in South Amboy, and it's not current. So the information is different. So when you send the letter to validate that debt with that creditor, and the information is different, so the credit bureau see that debt cannot be validated because the information is different. So if you have a different address and an address that doesn't need to be on your credit report, everything has to be current. Then change, that is the first thing that you do. You update all of your information on all credit reports and all three credit bureaus. I can provide you with all of the addresses in that package where you can go ahead and write those letters. Then organize yourself. Collect all your bills, put them together, prepare all your letters, the letters that you're going to send first. So remember how we discussed about all the points? If you see that payment history is your problem, then you attack that first. If you see that is credit utilization, then you attack that first. Then, excuse me, make a commitment to work at it for 6 months. Create also a record keeping system. Just create a spreadsheet in which you write the dates. If you send the credit bureaus your updated information letter on this day, write it. The day that you expect, because they have this, there's a time frame in which they have to respond to you. It used to be 30 days, but that changed with COVID. Now everybody is taking longer to go around and respond. So create a record keeping system so that you keep the time frame in which you have to send the next letter and when you have to go ahead and get a response back from the credit bureau. So this is how you know the law is on your side. The Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the FDCPA, this is what governs collection agencies. Collection agencies have to abide by this law. And the reason you change, you have to have your current information is because the collection agency has your old address, they cannot go ahead and have that debt on your credit report, excuse me, with an address that you no longer live. So these are the things that you need to understand. So collection agencies have to abide by the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act. My favorite one is Section 807. This states a false or misleading representation, which means they have your wrong address, your wrong information. That's false. And it's misleading because now they're putting information on your credit report that is negative, which is preventing you from obtaining credit from any creditor. And it's also damaging your reputation. Now, also communicating or threaten to communicate to any person credit information which is known or which should be known to be false. If it's not your debt, most of the time, including the failure to communicate that the debt is disputed. The minute you dispute a debt with any collection agency, they have to place that the debt is being disputed on your credit report. If you at the 45-day point, which is what is being allowed right now through COVID. It used to be 30 days. On the 31st day, bam, you got them. If they didn't do that and they had to delete it, well, it has to say that the debt is being disputed. They have to mark that. But what collection agencies do is that, I don't know if you notice that collection agencies go ahead and they take your debt. Let's say the debt, it was originally $200. Then they would appear on your credit report a year later for $190, then for $120. So what they're doing is that they are resetting the day of last activity on your credit report so that they can continue doing that later. And that's the tricks that they use on their end. So there's also ways that you can go ahead and stop them by using this particular section, 807A. But I would discuss that more, and I would ask there any question concerning that, so that you know that if you have a collection agency, and the way you know that it is the same is that you're going to see either their name, and also they use fictitious name. They go under one name and then another name, but it's the same account. Now, there's also the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the FCRA. This is what rules the credit companies, the credit bureaus, and the creditors, the bank and lenders. The Section 623 states that they have the responsibilities of furnishers of information to consumer reporting agencies. Which means any information that they report to the credit bureaus have to be accurate. Because if any information that is on your credit report is inaccurate, let's say your name, let's say your address, this is what covers you right here. So, and also anytime you dispute anything, that duty to provide notice of dispute has to be on it also as well for the credit bureaus and creditors also as well. So now there's the FTC. This is very important that you become familiar with the Federal Trade Commission. I became very familiar with them in the year 2000. I had to go through them to file a report for a particular mortgage company. Now, this is what protects consumers and stops companies from committing unfair and fraudulent acts. It collects the complaint. So if you want to file a complaint, this is where you go file it also as well. And it investigates companies and people who break the law. There are laws that govern. You see your lawmakers and Congress, they pass different laws, and these laws have to be obeyed. And not only for consumers, but for the creditors and the lenders. So it educates consumers about their rights and maintain fair market value. So, and if you have any questions, because some of these laws are written in jingles that sometimes we don't understand. I used to, when I was filing my report, I filed like a 15-page report, because if you are filing a report, you should have records of everything. Everything has to be well documented for a particular company. That's why if somebody's calling you or threatening you, anybody that is breaking the law concerning credit, you have to document everything and be consistent on it, because whenever you're filing this report and you give them everything, they've really worked with you. And they also answer all your questions. I used to always make phone calls to them and talk to someone. I don't know how easy it is right now during the COVID situation, but I know if I didn't understand something about a particular law that I was covering my situation, I will call them and ask them what can I do and how can I get around it. But this is one place, and this information is available to you online. If you go to the Federal Trade Commission website, you can get all the information there. So if you have a particular situation that pertaining to your credit or any consumer issues, you can go here and you find a lot of stuff that is usable. So these are common creditors' mistakes. They call you before 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m. No one can call you after 9 p.m. or before 8 a.m. They contact a third party, such as an employer or friend, trying to get information about you. They cannot do that. They lie about the amount you owe. Now, remember when I said that collection agencies try to reset the day of last activity on your credit report. And the reason they do that is so that they can keep it there. So they can try to, they want to see if they're going to try to collect that accounts receivable to them if they continue to put it on your credit. So the way, and to me, that is lying, because if you're not giving an account of what I really owed you, and you're saying that I owe you money, then you're lying about the amount that I owe. If on the credit report, it is the wrong amount, even if you know that is $200, that you once had a bill for $200 for a particular company and now is under a collection agency. Remember in the beginning, I said to you, I don't speak to collection agencies because I've done no business with them. First of all, they can never validate your debt because the only debts that normally get validated with collection agencies are like sometimes student loans, and only from a few companies like Navient and Ameritrade. So not all of them get validated, but collection agencies, what they do is they continue to change that amount so that they can reset the day of last activity so they can stay on your credit report. And you can go ahead and stop that. They threaten to garnish your salary or to sell your property. No one can sell your property unless it goes through a judge or the court process. So don't even listen to anyone that calls threatening you or saying, oh, we're going to garnish your salary. There is a process that have to go through, and you will be well informed, and you have to be served. There's a lot of things that have to happen before that. So don't be afraid when they call you and say, oh, we're going to sell your property. They cannot. They give false credit information to credit reporting agencies. Okay. Most of the time they give the wrong credit information. They say that you owe and that you have credit with them, but you don't. Now, as long as you don't acknowledge the debt, it's not yours. So that's why most creditors, if it's a direct creditor that you have any relationship with or you have a contract with, there's always ways that you can talk it out with the original creditor. But no one else you shouldn't talk to. Not responding to dispute in a timely mandated by law. The time, it's normally that you have to respond within 30 days. Now, normally 45, on the 46 days, you can make use of that particular law. Now, also the things that you need to know about collection agencies. They need to be licensed and bonded. They cannot, this cannot be violated. If they're not licensed and bonded in the state in which you operate, in which you have the debt, then you can file a report with the consumer protection laws and requirements in your state. You file a report with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You send it to the Attorney General and also to the Business Bureau. And that report, most collection agencies, I have caught a few that their license have expired and they were going without a license. All of a sudden they disappear right away. And that's, if you find out that that collection agency is still on your credit report, but it's no longer operating, which is the case of many during the pandemic that have not been able to keep the consistency in staying in business, you can find out if they're still operating, because if they're not, the credit bureaus have to take it off your credit report immediately, because you don't have anyone to contact as the creditor. So dealing with collection agencies, what is the things that they must provide you? If an agency calls you and say, oh, or sends you a letter or anything, first, I don't talk to them. But if they send you a letter or you see it on your credit report, you can start a dispute. The first thing is that they need to prove the debt to you. They need to show you a contract with you bearing your signature that you have, and they must have your accurate information, like your correct address on that contract. If they send you, what they do is that most time when they purchase these debts, they get limited information, especially if it's a medical bill. They get limited information from the original creditor. I have gone through a lot of clients that have had different cell phone providers, wireless providers that have sold the debt to someone else. And it's not hard to dispute these things because you've never done business with this particular collection agency. So the steps to take is you start the dispute, you pour your credit, and you send the first letter. There is one first letter, you wait 45 days, and then you pour your credit again on the 46th day. On the 46th day, if that collection that you have already sent the letter is still on your credit report, and you need to know that if it is, you need to say dispute, that is being disputed, that the debt has been disputed. But if you don't receive anything from the collection agency and it's not deleted within the 46th day, then you dispute it with the credit bureau. This is a violation of the FDCPA law, section 807. So if you don't know this one, if you think that you don't understand when you're reading it, call them. There are articles out there that have more expanded information on it, but it's pretty simple. And if it's a medical bill, this is another thing I needed to discuss with you. If it's a medical bill, you send what is called a HIPAA letter. The HIPAA letter is a letter that is dealing directly with HIPAA. All the information that pertains to your health should not be disclosed to anyone else. So collection agencies should not be after you for any medical bill. These medical bills have to be directly, if you're going to discuss any information, because when you get the HIPAA letter, ask for them to validate the debt for you. And if they would not be able to validate that debt because the medical or whatever, the doctor or the lab, they cannot disclose any information to any collection agency. So this is the number one, the way that you get rid of a collection, a medical collection from your credit report. The statute of limitation for collection in New Jersey is 6 years. And even before sometimes, because it can be dismissed in court. I've seen cases in which people go to court, and don't be afraid to go to court with a collection agency. Most of the time they say, well, yeah, we want to go, and they never show up. Remember, most of the time, these are like 2 or 3 people shop, so they don't have the funds or the resources to go to court with you. So if it's something that you can beat, take it to court. They don't show up, the debt gets taken off. If it's a student loan, don't try it. Student loans don't go away. And I keep saying that. You have to work this out to get this to be taken care of in another way. Okay, so let's talk about data miners. Data miners are the third parties that report to the credit bureaus. Anytime you see information, if you're not familiar with LexisNexis, anytime you see information such as public records on your credit report, like a bankruptcy, a foreclosure, a judgment, a lien, 99% of the time comes from LexisNexis. The good news is that you can dispute things with LexisNexis directly, clean that up, and freeze it, and then go ahead and dispute it with the credit bureaus. You don't even have to deal with the creditor anymore if you do it at this level. LexisNexis, let's say you have a bankruptcy that is being reported. It is through LexisNexis. You have the right to request your report from them and freeze it, because what they're doing is that they're selling your information. They're collecting the data on you, and unknown to you, this is how they make their money. So, and you have not allowed them or give them permission. You don't need to, because they also have laws that protect them, but you have the right to request a freeze on your report, that no one can get in and no one can take any information out. If you have a bankruptcy, the first thing you request is through your courts and courts procedure concerning bankruptcy. You request a letter from your county clerk asking them to state what is the procedure they use to report a bankruptcy to a credit bureau or a credit reporting agency or a third-party agency. The minute you send that, you send it with a self-addressed envelope so that the court can respond to you. And you're going to get a letter from the court saying that they do not furnish that information to them. Because when you dispute anything on LexisNexis, they're going to tell you that they get that information that is provided to them by the court. The courts does not provide them with that information. So right away, there's an inaccuracy there. This is how you are able to most times get rid of those bankruptcies and the public information that is on your credit report. Because if you fight it, there's ways for you to get rid of them. So for some of us, the LexisNexis report is going to be a very, very long report. The first time I pulled mine, it was like 130 pages. I was disgusted with the stuff that was there, but it took me a while to clean it. And after that, I froze it and nothing can get in and out. So that's one channel that I closed. So is CoreLogic, SageStream, and Innovis. These are all parts, these are all third-party agencies. So these are the fundamentals of credit. If you want to start building credit, let's say you right now at the lower score, 300, and you need to work on the 550 points that you need to add to your credit. If you look and see, the first thing, if you need to build any credit and you have, let's say you don't have credit cards, you start with secure credit cards. A secure credit card is, let's say you have $200, you deposit it into an account, and that account, and then the company issues you a $200 credit limit. Now, there's a lot of companies, Capital One, Chase, most of the banks have secure credit card. And it's like a building block. When you start building consumer credit, first, you get a secure credit card. Then you get a small credit card revolving account that is issued to you, because once you get the secure credit card, you probably, going to build your credit, and then other credit card offers are going to come in, and then someone is going to issue you credit little by little. Then you go into the car loan and then mortgages. You do not go apply for a car loan or mortgage if you have no credit or no credit trade, because you're going to be denied. So raising your credit, if you do it one step at a time, open a secure credit card with any bank, open a Navy Federal or any credit union account. Credit unions tend to be more lenient and offer a lot of programs for people who would like to build their credit. And there's nothing wrong with credit unions, because I think they have outstanding interest especially on car loans and even mortgages. I've have a lot of great experience with Navy Fed. That's why I talk about it. You get a 5,000 to 10,000 credit line. The way you get this is you go to those stores. It's going to cost you to increase that. It has to be depending on your situation. You just don't go open a $5,000 or $10,000 credit line unless let's say you're purchasing a home, you need your credit to increase 50 points in the next 30 days. So you're probably going to go pay a membership and say, okay, let me go to my jewelers and open a $5,000 account, and then that would increase your credit. I've seen just opening a secure credit card and that $5,000 from my jeweler's account, or open a self-lending account, I've seen it increase 150 points in just 30 days, just by doing those 3 credit trade lines. Now you wait 90 days, you can open a self-lending. Self-lending is a situation in which you pay a monthly, like you say, let's say $25 a month, you'll pay into an account, and it's $25 that at the end of it, you get all that money back, but it's like you're putting it away, but they reported to the company reported to the credit agencies as a loan. So it favors you in the amount of credit that is available to you, or in payment. It is great for building payment history. So then after you do that, you wait 90 days and then you apply for a revolving account. A revolving account is any Visa, MasterCard, or American Express, or any card directly from the bank, because at that point, your credit should be past 660, 690, in that range. Wait another 90 days and then you apply for bank loans, mortgages, etc. You should be near the 700, between 650 and 700. So at that point, when your credit is built that way, little by little, you don't have to spend money in paying someone to do this for you. It's pretty simple and it's pretty straight to the point. Well, in summary, we've been on this webinar almost an hour. I'm going to be answering all the questions, but in summary, remember, check your credit regularly. You can do it now on a weekly basis. You can go once a week and just pull it and see what's there, see if there's any update, anything has been taken off. Keep your credit utilization below 30%. If it's $1,000 credit limit, only use 300. Never close a credit card. That will harm you. It'll lower your credit score. Closing the account is not a good thing if you're building credit. If you have the leverage that you have, an 800 credit score, and you just want to get rid of some stuff and start the process of getting it off your credit, then you can do that. But don't close any accounts. It's not going to be in your favor. Never open a lot of accounts unless it's necessary for you to build your credit. Pay off your balances in full every month. Remember the example that I said to you? I pay the entire amount 5 days prior to my statement date. The statement date on your account, it is very, very important for you to always know that date. If you are building credit, make sure you keep at least 3% on that card so that there is a balance there, and it shows the points can be accumulated to payments towards payment history. Pay more than the minimum payment. Don't ever pay a minimum payment on a credit card. They will watch and they will know. Creditors will know. Those are the things that they look for. Because when only paying the minimum payment, they know you're going to have that debt forever, and that debt can become negative. The chances are there's a higher percentage that it'll be delinquent in the future. Keep your credit line with a high impact variables. Remember the high impact variables, the payment, the utilization, and the credit mix, all those things. Keep them in mind so that you can acquire all the points that we discussed. Set automatic payments so that you can increase your credit with the ultra credit scores, just go set your bills from online and set it to be paid at a certain specific day when you know that the money is going to be in your account, but at least you know that it's going to be paid and you don't have to worry about buying a stamp or anything. It gets paid from your checking account. So you'll never be late. Never ever charge an amount that you cannot pay in cash. And this ends our webinar. So I'm going to open it up for questions to Cora right now. I know I cover a lot of information, but if you have any questions, this is the time to ask.
Okay, so we do have one question from M. Dixon. M. Dixon is asking, I was once told to dispute with the bureaus and the bureaus have to investigate and then take off an entry if the creditor does not respond. Is this not accurate?
I don't understand the question. He once had to ask to dispute with the bureaus.
Yes, that's correct. And the bureaus have to investigate and then take off any entry if the creditor does not respond.
Now, see, you have to know the situation. You have to look, this is why you have to look at and do an analysis of the report. Look at the debt. The only thing you dispute with the bureau is when you see that you're going directly to the bureau because you know that whatever the creditor is going to do is going to work on your favor. So every situation is different. If you know, if the creditor, if it's a collection agency that has a medical bill, you're not going to go directly to the bureau. You're going to go to them and dispute it with them with a specific letter, because everything has to be put in a specific letter depending what the situation is. If it's a medical bill, you get the HIPAA. If it's not a medical bill, but it's a situation in which the debt has different amounts in different places in your credit report, and there is no information on the credit report, you're going to send the validation letter, and you're going to send that letter to the credit bureaus. So it depends on the information. You could be right and you could be wrong. So I have to look and see what is the need for that particular credit in that situation. All letters are not sent to the credit bureaus, and all letters are not sent to the creditors. You have to look at the situation and see which one is going to benefit you. What is it that you're arguing? What is your argument in this particular situation? If it needs to be sent to the bureaus, then it needs to be disputed with the bureaus. The things that are disputed with the bureaus, many times that debt cannot be validated. So if you know that the debt is not going to be validated with the credit bureaus, then the credit bureau cannot get back to you and say, oh yes, this is validated. No, because they don't have any information on you. And remember, the credit bureaus have a system. It's called the e-Oscar. And this system is a computerized system. So most times there is a pattern in which you write the letters that the system does not read. And I'm not going to discuss that here, but there is a way that you write these letters to the credit bureaus, and these letters carry a certain information. So it depends on the situation. So I cannot tell you that this is right or this is wrong because I don't know what is the particular situation.
Okay, our next question is from Ayana. Ayana is asking, how many open accounts are considered too many?
If your credit report, it's great. If it's 850, if it's 800, if it's 750 and above, it's not too many. If you're making a purchase, if you're buying, for instance, purchasing a house and you have $150,000 of credit available to you, and the lender will see that it can become a liability to them, then they can deny you. So as I said, every situation is different. I recommend whatever you can handle. Let me just give you my story so that you can probably understand what is too many and what is not. At one point, I had $180,000 worth of credit, 28 credit cards. I got myself in a little trouble because I didn't know some things. So it got out of hand. One of my properties didn't close on time, and stuff happens. It took me about 9 months to get rid of another $80,000 that I was in the hole because of one of my properties. At that point, I had too many credit cards. I didn't need to have all those credit cards. So that was, and although at that point I had an 800 credit score, but that was kind of chaotic. And one little situation messed me up. So that could be a point. I recommend that you keep at least 3 credit cards, one loan, and 1 mortgage should get you right in the 800s.
Okay, our next question is from Jose Acosta. Jose is asking, I already have 2 collection reported in my credit bureau, and I settled the debt and I'm making payments. Can I still negotiate to pay to delete letter option?
That has to be done in the beginning. That has to be done in the beginning. And may I ask if were these medical bills?
Well, let's see what he responds.
No, now nothing is not going to change because you already have an agreement with them. I mean, you can try everything. You can try everything, but I doubt that they will do that.
He said, no, they're not.
No, I doubt that they would do it. But are they reporting payments on your account? You need to also see that the amount changes in the account as you make the payments, because collection agencies don't do monthly payment stuff on your credit. You know that, right?
He answered, yes, they are.
But they're not supposed to. They're not supposed to. Collection agencies are, this is why they settle with you on a 1 payment. Collection agencies don't do monthly payments. They're not creditors. So Jose, I think you need to call us and maybe we can talk about it.
Okay, our next question is from Patricia. How do I know if there's a report with my information on LexisNexis? Would the name LexisNexis appear in my credit report?
No, you go to lexisnexis.com and you go and request a LexisNexis report. This is a third-party data miner. What they do is that they are the ones who collect the information and sell it to the bureaus. You need to pull out your credit and clear that report. Guys, it's not only the 3 credit bureaus that you're going to freeze. There's also 5 different agencies out there that are the ones that are responsible for giving the information to the credit bureaus. Once you clear them, then you go deal with the credit bureaus.
Okay, so just to follow up with Jose's question, he stated, every month I'm receiving a notification that my balance is going down.
Okay, you're receiving a notification that your balance is going down. That's fine. But what I'm saying is, what are they doing on your credit? What are they reporting on your credit? Because they're not supposed to report any balance change like that on your credit, because they're not creditors. You either pay or not, or have the debt. Chances are, I bet that if you go on your credit report, you still see the same balance.
Okay, our next question is, my FICO score is at 519 now. How can I get a secured credit card if every time I try to do it, they reject my application?
Not a secure credit card, because then it's not secure. If I don't want you to tell me public, but if a secure credit card rejects your application, it has to do with something on your credit, such as bankruptcy, Ripple, or anything. But secure credit cards most of them don't even go on your credit, because what you do is that you take $200 or $300, and it doesn't matter the amount, but it should be above $200. I don't think anybody does it below that. You deposit that money, they're going to go and they're going to have that money, and you can only spend that money from there. You can go to Navy Federal, you could go to, there's many, if you go on, if you search online secure credit cards, you're going to get a whole bunch of them, and it doesn't matter. These are small companies that they will go ahead and you can make the payment with your debit card, and they can go ahead and issue you the card. Capital One has it, but it has to be secure. You're probably applying for a credit card, not a secure credit card. Because secure means that the money is there and that they have no liability.
Okay, so we do have 2 more minutes left, but I'll try to ask these questions and get them answered. The next question is, you mentioned having only 3 credit cards. Are there some credit cards better than others?
No, not really. I just choose to have that, but you have to look at the terms. I don't like paying yearly fees. I don't pay yearly fees. It has to be a low interest, but because, see, the interest to me on many of the credit cards, because I use it for specific purpose, I've become disciplined with using the credit card in a way that it has to only work to my advantage. So I look at the terms and the conditions of the card and the interest rate, and I go by what it's beneficial to me. I use a credit card for everything. At the end of the month, well, it's not even the end, it's almost to the mid-month, I pay 5 days prior to the due date. On the statement day, not the due date, statement day. So that the statement day, so that it doesn't occur on the next month. And I only leave a 3%. And I just spend everything because every purchase is insured. So why not?
Okay, our next question is, I've noticed that my credit has been stagnant. What are some other ways I can increase my credit?
You see the points, how I was discussing, we need to look at your credit. You can call the center and request for one of us to do an analysis on your credit and see if it has been stagnant. That means you need to increase it by whatever the situation is, whether payment history, whether it's building more credit trays or whatever, one of the 3 variables, and you see which one you're not getting the entire points.
Okay, and our last question is, my credit score dropped 20 points. Credit utilization reduced, all on-time payments. I've been doing everything positive. Is there another reason why my score would drop?
It tells you, have any inquiries go on? You said that your utilization, you lowered the utilization. It could be maybe you need to create another credit tray, maybe increase any of the limits with some of your cards. Maybe the credit available to you is still low. If you need to get another card, or maybe just do a self-lending. One of the best ways to create payment history is probably payment history if you're doing lump sum payment. So one of the best way is to do the self-lending, $25 a month, and every month is reported to all 3 credit bureaus, and it's a beautiful thing. It comes right out of your bank. And at the end, it's your savings. You get the lump sum back into your bank that you've paid every month, and you use it as self-lending. So maybe try that, maybe that, but if it's stagnant, it has to be, you remember the points that we discussed? Payment history, utilization, and everything else. Make sure that when you do the payment history, you keep at least 3%, 3 to 4% balance, because that's what creates the payment history. And it also works on the utilization by keeping that percentage on the balance of the credit card. It's guys, it's just a game. They have a way in which they can set it up so that you fall into that credit trap, so that you don't reach a certain amount of credit and then you go to buy a car or anything else. Guess what? You're the one who paid the price because you're paying a higher interest. Prepare yourself. Anytime you're going to go out to make any major purchase or any purchase, prepare yourself. It takes you 60 to 90 days to get that in line. And don't fall for their game.
Okay, and that was our last question, Carmen. Thank you so much.
Oh, that was our last question?
Yes, we do have one more. We do have one more, but would you like to answer it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. So it's from Jose. He's asking, how many secured credit cards can I open at the same time to build credit?
Just do 2. I wouldn't do more than 2. Do 2, wait 60 days, and you'll get all the cards. Just do 2, but don't do it at the same time. Wait at least 2 to 3 weeks in between them.
Okay, and that was actually our last question.
Okay, so I thank everyone for being on this webinar. As I said, you can send me an email or call the center. If you need your credit to be evaluated, this is at no cost to you, but it costs them to pay us. So it's not free, but you get this as a resource in Essex County. So you can call, ask for counseling. And if you have any questions concerning your credit, you can always send me an email, carmenmorris1@gmail.com. I'm always traveling, so I would answer you in 1 or 2 days. If you have any questions, specific question to your situation concerning the credit, and you can always, remember you're going to get the PDF file of this presentation and the recording. So you can always refer back to it. And as I said, just email me, carmenmorris1@gmail.com. Or call our center for counseling. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you so much, Carmen, for that informative presentation and for your time today.
Thank
So
you.
at this time, I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen so that our contact information is on there. As Carmen had mentioned, if you're in Essex County and you're interested in the one-on-one counseling with Carmen, you can feel free to visit our website, www.rnsbdc. And on the top right-hand corner of our site, we have a red button labeled Request Counseling. So you can click on that button. You can feel free to give us a call, or you can send an email, whichever method works best for you. Again, our one-on-one consultations are at no cost to you, so I do strongly advise taking advantage of that opportunity. And at this time, I would like to direct everyone to the chat. There, I will be pasting some of our upcoming webinars and workshops, as well as the direct link to request counseling with Carmen. Or if you're interested in any other topic for your business, you can feel free to request counseling there as well. Again, we do only service those within Essex County. So if you're in Essex County, you will speak with one of our many consultants. And this year, we are hosting many other webinars and workshops in topics such as finances, access to capital, marketing and branding, e-commerce, credit counseling, cybersecurity, state certifications, government contracting, and so much more. So again, you can sign up for these webinars and workshops via our website or our Eventbrite page, which is there in the chat. And you will definitely find a webinar or workshop that best fits your business needs. Also, I just want to remind everyone that you will be receiving a video replay as well as the presentation slides within 48 to 72 business hours. And after this webinar has ended, in the browser, you will see a survey pop up. That survey will help us to adjust our presentations and webinars, as well as give us some information on the type of assistance you may be needing with your business. So if you have a minute or two just to complete that, your feedback is very much appreciated. And on that note, we will now end this webinar. I want to say thank you again to Carmen for sharing your expertise with us. And thank you to all of our attendees for taking the time out today to attend and ask your question in today's webinars. We look forward to seeing you all at our future webinars and workshops. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.